Thank you for joining this session on bin tracking. My name is Anne from Orchid Systems, and I'll be recording this session that I'm giving today, and this will be distributed to all attendees in the next couple of days. For those of you who don't know about Orchid, at this stage we have over 5,000 sites running Orchid modules, and these sites are in over 60 countries around the world. And on average, most sites use two of our modules. We're supported by over 400 business partners around the world, and we're based in Sydney, Australia, and have received over 10 industry awards for the modules that we write. At this stage, we have 13 integrated modules with Sage 300. And by integrated, I mean they're developed 100% in the Sage 300 SDK and support all the standard utilities that Sage 300 core modules support. For example, data integrity checks, dumps and loads, and all the common reporting utilities that you use on your Sage 300 core modules. And we've been in business over 25 years. And all our modules are about improving efficiency, productivity, and collaboration with Sage 300. I mentioned we had 13 modules, and they fall in these 5 major categories. Collaboration and intelligence, where we have Info Explorer, our slice and dice BI tool, and Notes and Document Management Link, which allow you to attach context-sensitive notes and documents to Sage 300 screens and data in those screens. In automation and productivity, we have Process Scheduler and Report Runner. Process Scheduler allows you to schedule repetitive tasks for Sage 300, which perhaps take a lot of time and or people forget to run them. For example, data integrity checks, day ends, you can post batches, and you can also run crystal reports or financial reports that you've set up in Report Runner. So Report Runner allows you to create menus of crystal reports and financial reports and store the parameters for those reports the way you want to run them. And then Process Scheduler is able to schedule those either daily, weekly, monthly, whatever frequency you set up. In tailoring your system and systems integration, we have 3 modules that assist with extra processes or validations required in Sage 300. Initially, we have Extender, which allows you to do alerting and logging of data, so alerting when data changes by creating a note or sending an email, logging when data changes. But you can also apply custom scripts to do extra validations and extend processes. For example, you might validate that the credit limit can't be set as greater than $100,000. Or maybe when somebody adds a bill of materials item on the sales order, you want to automatically assemble that bill of materials item in the background. And Extender also allows you to create custom tables and views. So any extra data that you need to store in Sage 300 can be stored properly in the Sage 300 database and is supported by dumps and loads of the database. But we also have optional tables, which is specifically geared around storing budget information in Sage 300. And the advantage it has over Extender for this budget information is it has an add-in that you can load up in Excel, and it allows you to read and write and create the budget information from within Excel. Data Views helps you simplify reporting against optional table structures, both Orchid's optional tables, but also Sage's standard optional tables. It helps create a data view for that, which makes either your crystal reports or your Info Explorer cubes more simple to write and maintain. In streamlining financial processes, we have EFT processing, which supports the electronic funds transfer processing for AP payments, AR, so that's AR direct debits or AR refunds to your customer, and also now more recently, Canadian payroll and US payroll. But for financial processes and groups of companies, we also have a module Inter-Entity Trade, which allows you to automate AP from AR, AR from AP, OE to PO, PO to OE. So when groups of companies are trading with each other, you can automate the second leg of the transaction without having to rekey. And if you're dealing with groups of companies, we also have inter-entity transactions, which allows you to automate the loan account entries between entities or companies. For example, if I record an accounts payable invoice in company 1 and 50% of that accounts payable invoice is really an expense for company 2, inter-entity transactions can automate the debit to the expense and the credit to the loan account in company 2 as you process the transaction in company 1. And in operations management, we have return material authorizations and bin tracking. So RMA allows you to create all the extra information you need to store around a return, whether that be fault code tracking or what stage in the process of your RMA the item or items are. And depending on your QA or your inspection process, perhaps that item needs to be replaced. So you would create a replacement sales order for that item, or perhaps the item needs to be credited and you can create a credit note from the RMA. Or maybe the item needs to go back to your supplier, so you can create a vendor return from the RMA. But RMA allows you to keep all the additional costs, attract any spare parts if you're doing repairs, and then create all the other documents from one central place, giving you a full picture of the return at any one time. And bin tracking, which is the module that I'm going to go through in more detail now. So the business need for bin tracking is often if people have lots of small items or high value items or items that visually look very similar, and so it's hard to find in the warehouse. So where you need to keep track of the quantities per IC location at a lower level than just just the IC location. So Sage 300 does have a picking number on the IC location, but it doesn't insist that it's in that place, and you can't have multiple picking locations for an item. So what bin tracking allows you to do is subdivide a IC location into bins, and then any movement in or out of the IC location, you need to specify not only that it's going into location 1 or is being taken from location 1, but also which bin in location 1 is the item going into or being taken from. So customers who need this, who struggle to find the items in the location, perhaps they're doing serialized or lot tracking, and so they have the same item in many locations, but they want to know where one exact lot number is, or where it's visually hard to just see which items are where in the location, either because the location is big enough or the items are small enough. And the advantage of using bin tracking is all the tables are in the Sage 300 database, which is useful for reporting against other Sage 300 transactions, but also the look and feel of the transactions is exactly the same as what the customer is used to using order entry and inventory control. So bin tracking allows you to track individual inventory items in multiple bins per IC location. It's keeping track of item quantities only. We're not costing by bin. It's just by item. Just the quantities by item. Using bin tracking will improve the movement, the accuracy and the movement of the items in and out of the warehouse, as you're able to pinpoint exactly where the inventory is at any point in time. I mentioned before, it's the same look and feel as the IC, OE, and PO screens, so there's no need to learn new software when implementing bin tracking in terms of look and feel. And it will increase the productivity of the warehouse by reducing the time to pick and also in resulting in more accurate picks and putaways. So here's a few screenshots from the different icons within bin tracking, but I'll just go across into the software, and rather than talking to screenshots, I'll show you how it all hangs together. So bin tracking is a normal module, so you would install and activate the same way you do with any other module, and it appears on the Sage 300 desktop, as you can see here. But I'm going to demonstrate using our visual process flows. So first of all, looking at the bin tracking process flow, I'll talk to these transactions and demonstrate a handful, and then I'll go back into the setup to see how we set bin tracking up to perform the way it is on this particular installation. So bin tracking, in essence, what it allows you to do is to configure for all the standard ICOE PO documents that result in a movement of stock in or out of an IC location. It allows you to configure how you want the bin transfer to be created and how you want the bin transfer to be filled in. So just looking at the PO receipt, when I create a PO receipt, automatically a bin transfer document will be created for that PO receipt, and I will be able to fill in for the items that are on the PO receipt. I'll be able to fill in which bins those relate to on my bin transfer document. So just as it gets automatically created for my PO receipt, same for the PO return. So in this particular case, it would be a pick. So when I create my PO return, the bin transfer document for those items will be created, picking the items from the bins to be returned to the supplier. Same for order entry. My order entry shipment, it will be a pick from the warehouse. So as I post the OE shipment, the bin transfer document will be created, and I can go and fill in the bins or confirm the bins that the items are being picked from. Same for a debit note. That would be a result in a pick style bin transfer, as opposed to a credit note, which would be a put away if those items are being returned into stock. And same for all the inventory control documents. If you are using these, you'll definitely be using IC transfers between locations if you have multiple locations, but you may or may not be using the IC receipt, shipments and returns, but you might be using the assembly, disassembly, or internal usage. So any of these documents, will be a transfer would be a pick from one location, bin and location, and a put away into another bin and location combination. Or an assembly would be a pick of all the raw materials and a put away of the finished goods. So any of these documents will result in a bin transfer where you then fill in and or confirm the bins associated with that movement. Same for return material authorizations. If you're doing a credit note from the RMA or a vendor return from the RMA, then you can fill in the bins either to pick for the vendor returns or to put away from the credit note. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a PO receipt. So, whether I use it from this visual process flow or from within purchase orders, the same screen pops up. And I'm just going to record a vendor receipt for 2 items. So location 1 and the quantity received. I'll do 35 of the desk lamps and 70 of the bulbs. So when I go ahead and post this receipt, bin tracking is going to create a bin transfer document in the background for this particular PO receipt. And because of my configuration in my configuration in Orc Ltd, I have assumed that the person recording the PO receipt also knows the bins, and they're going to be confirming the bins at the time of recording the PO receipt. So by configuration, I've chosen to pop up the bin transfer at the same time of posting the receipt. So here I have for receipt 106, I've got the associated bin transfer number 35. It has the same 2 items recorded as a put away, and obviously with the same quantities. And based on my put away rules, it's suggested to me that I should put 35 of this item into bin A010102 and 70 of this item into bin B010101. So if that is what's, I'm assuming that the receipt, the delivery documentation from the vendor was with the goods, the person's put it away and has written on the receipt document, the paperwork, what bin it went into, and now it's upstairs and I'm recording these details. So if this is exactly where it was put away, all I need to do is save, and it's recognized that it's fully put away, and it's suggesting to me, do I want to just complete the document? I'm going to say no, because I want this document to be sitting in my status screen so I can show you my status screen of all the documents that are in progress. And I'm going to say yes, I want to set it in progress. So this document is now in progress, and I'll show you shortly. It'll be sitting on my status screen as a document that is in progress. If, for example, it hadn't been put away into my suggested bin, I could come in here and just change the bin number to say which bin it was put in, or if more likely, or perhaps not all 35 could fit in bin A010102. So I could say, well, let's put 20 into that bin and perhaps into another bin. I'm going to put the remaining 15. So bin tracking has no capacity planning. So when it suggests to you to put an item in a certain bin, it has no idea that it knows what else is in that bin, but it doesn't have an idea of the capacity of that bin or the size of the stock. So it have been suggesting to your preferred bin is A010102, but it wouldn't be able to tell you that it's full and you can only fit 20 and you put your 15 in another bin. But assuming this is what's written on the paperwork, when I go close, it is now showing me that this item went into multiple bins. The detail is still sitting behind in this record. And if any of these items were serialized or lot tracked, I could say, click on this up arrow as you can in OE and IC and fill in the associated lot numbers and or serial numbers if the item is both serial and lot tracked. But this item is not, so I'm just getting that warning message. With the so if I was to click save now, again, it's going to prompt me, do I want to complete it? Because it's recognizing it's still fully put away. I'm just going to say no, because I want it to appear on the status screen. So this document was automatically created because of my configuration and automatically popped up because of my configuration. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a PICS document for those same items. So I'm going to do an OE shipment. So whether I'd go into order entry and go into orders and ship from the order, or whether I go straight into the OE shipment as I am here, the same processing will happen. So if I have customer 1200, I ship the same items. So let's perhaps ship 15 of these and of the desk lamps, and ship 30 of the bulbs. When I go ahead and post this document, and I just need to fill in my credit details and post again. So in posting a shipment document, either from the OE shipment screen or from the OE order screen when quantities have been shipped, in posting that document, OE is creating the shipment in the background, and bin tracking has been configured to at the same time to create the bin transfer document, but my choice, I didn't choose to pop it up on the screen at the same time. And that's because for the in my process, I'm assuming that it's a two-step process, that the person in the office says, go ahead and do the shipment, but then the picking slip prints in the warehouse showing which items need to be picked, showing the bins that it needs to be picked from. And once that pick has been done, then they're going to come back and confirm the pick on the bin transfer document. So I don't see the bin transfer popping up, but what I can do is go to the status screen and have a look at the bin transfer document that was created. So running the pick status screen, it is a screen which shows you all the bin transfers that are in progress, or not yet ready, or not ready, or sorry, not ready, in progress, or ready. So previously, when I had run this screen before, I had filtered this screen. So my user ID as admin had filtered this screen to show only PO receipts and where they're in progress. So I'm seeing only my in progress PO receipts. But if I just clear that filter, I'm seeing all the documents that are not yet complete. So I've got a couple of documents which are the status is not ready and they're showing up in red. I've got a handful of documents where the status is ready and they're showing up in yellow or orange. And then I have got my documents that are in progress. So, and which is what I was filtering for in the first place on PO receipts and in progress. So I only saw these green lines. But the OE shipment that I just created was OE shipment 75. So I could double click here to open the shipment if I wanted to see that, double click here to open the bin transfer if that's what I want to do, or I could double click here to change the status if I'm using this more as a to-do list and say, okay, this is now ready. Somebody go ahead and do this pick. I'm just going to open up the bin transfer. So double click on the BT document, and it'll open up the bin transfer for that associated document. So it's bin transfer 36 associated with shipment 75. I could click here to review the shipment if I needed to, but it's showing me the two items that I have included to pick. So 15 and 30 of the desk lamp and the bulbs, and it has suggested to me which bins to pick it from. So as I was, the quantity was 15, my preferred bin clearly didn't have enough to pick all 15. So if I click in the multiple bins here, I only had 5 available in A010104. So it's saying pick 5 from that location and the remainder pick from this location. When I go into the setup, I'll show you the rules on how you can set, which bins you suggest to be picked from or put away to. There's a number of different methods that you can use or choose between in terms of allocating bins. So if there had been sufficient for all 15 from this particular bin, which is my preferred bin for this particular item, then it would have been all 15 here, but clearly there was only 5 available and the remaining 10 to come from the next preferred bin. Whereas for my item, the desk bulb, the bulbs, all 30 could come from this bin A010102. So just like for the PO receipt, if I was to go ahead and say save, it's going to suggest that it's been fully picked. Do I want to set it to complete? I'm going to say no, just to leave it on my status screen, but I am going to put it in progress. So next time this screen refreshes, it'll be showing as green as work is in progress. So my assumption is, that the person did the shipment in the office, printed the picking slip, and I'm now, I've done the pick, and I'm now the person who's confirming the pick. So if that is exactly where I picked the items from, I could say, fine, that's fine, go ahead and complete the document. Or if it's your process that once the pick has been confirmed, that you update the OE shipment and you create the invoice, you could do that at the same time, and I could complete the document at the same time. So I'll go ahead and save that. I'll say, yes, I am now finished. So go ahead, update my OE shipment and create the invoice from that. So if the update to the shipment in this case here would just be to go to that shipment record and create the invoice from there. But if I had changed some of these quantities to be picked, let's say I couldn't find 15 at all, I could only find 14, so I changed this quantity to 14, then bin tracking would have updated the shipment to say only 14 were shipped, and then created the invoice for those 14 being shipped. So let's go and have a look at the configuration sitting behind these shipments and receipts, and in fact all the transactions. So just going to bin tracking setup into the options. The first configuration you need to do is on the picking method screen. So on the picking method, you will have an entry for every single type of document that results in a movement in or out of the warehouse. So we've got all the IC transactions, whether or not you're using them. You've got the OE, if you've got OE activated, you've got the OE type documents. So it's just the order from the point of view is if you do a shipment from the order, then how you want bin tracking to behave from a credit note, from a debit note, and from an OE shipment. We've also got the two PO documents that result in a movement in or out of the warehouse, the PO receipt or the PO return. RMA, if you do a PO return, it will result as a pick from the warehouse. A credit note would result in a put away if those items are being returned to stock. If I was using AutoSimply's manufacturing, I would have the three manufacturing documents that result in an assembly or a stock adjustment. So I could configure around AutoSimply's manufacturing orders. And if I was using Technisoft's Service Manager, I would have the three document types from Technisoft, which is their invoice, their credit note, and their internal usage type adjustment transaction. So you can configure for all the core modules and the add-ons from AutoSimply and Technisoft Service Manager to how the associated IC document is to be picked or put away into the IC location. So let's first look at the PO receipt, the first transaction I did. So what this configuration row is saying, whenever I post the PO receipt, I want you to automatically create the bin transfer during posting of the PO receipt. And the status is to be ready for pick or put away. Now I could configure that to be not ready, and it would show up in red, or I could do ready, which is orange, or and then once you start processing, you can move it on to in progress. Then for any put away type document, you can define the put away method, and that's really the rules on assigning a bin. So if you don't want bin tracking to assign a bin, you would say manual, or you would say auto put away and then define the rules of how to do that auto put away. You could also auto put away and complete. So if you always put the items into your bulk storage up the back, it never gets changed at the time of put away. You could say auto put away and complete, and then you wouldn't even need to go to that document to confirm the put away. But I've chosen auto put away, and from my method or which bin to suggest from, I've said I want to put away into the last bin it was picked from. So this is, you typically use the same item for a bin, and the last bin that you pick from, I want you to put away into that bin. So you keep topping up the same bin as far as possible. And then this pop up the bin transfer when posting. Because this is set to yes, that is why when I posted the PO receipt, the bin transfer document was A, created, and then B, popped up on the screen for the person who does the PO receipt to confirm the bins. On the Items tab, you have the ability to exclude some items by a mask from your bin tracking. So in my case, my ZZ items are all my samples, and I don't bother to bin track my samples. So you can either say track all the items except those ones that are shown below, or only track the items that are shown below. So this particular prompt here is saying if we have a PO receipt which none of the items are bin tracked on the receipt, do you just want to auto complete that document? So if my PO receipt was all samples, it would just put that away. It would just create the bin transfer, recognize it doesn't need any bins for those items, and because there's only samples on the PO receipt, it would just complete the document. And you've also got similar sorts of controls how you want to work with non-stock items. If you have non-stock items and you want to track them on your shipping and receiving documentation. And now if I look at the OE shipment, the second type of document that I did, so again, bin tracking was creating the bin transfer document automatically during posting. The status was ready for pick or put away, and that's why it was orange when I first looked at it in the pick status screen. I have made this one also auto pick, so my choices are the same, either manual auto pick or auto pick and complete. And for the pick method, I have chosen the least recent put away. So it's doing FIFO in my particular case. So the date that it's using is not a lot expiry or an item expiry date in any way. It's the date of the movement in or out of the warehouse. So the least recent put away was the oldest item that I put away into the warehouse, as opposed so that is FIFO, or most recent put away would be LIFO. Or I could specify a bin pick order. So I might say all the bins in the first row are pick order 1, in the second row pick order 2, in the third row pick order 3, and then it could be preferring to pick from the front of the warehouse before it needs to go further back into the back of the warehouse. The difference in my OE shipment and my PO tracking is this pop-up bin transfer when posting. So for my shipments, I said, no, don't pop up. It was a two-step process. I accessed that screen through the pick status, not automatically when I posted the shipment. And then we also have more controls, which I won't go through all of these in detail, but your numbering of your documents, whether you allow negative stock, and whether or not you allow the bin transfer document to be completed if the quantities you've picked or put away don't match the original source document. So you've got some controls on how accurate your documentation needs to be. You can also have optional fields. Optional fields either at the bin level, the bin transfer header level, or the bin transfer detail level. And these can be used in the same way as you do around your OE shipments or your OE orders and purchase orders. If you have the same named optional field at the same level, for example, if you had an optional field on the header level of the OE order and shipment, and you have the same excuse me, optional field on the transfer header, then when the bin transfer document is created from the OE shipment, the optional field would be copied from the shipment to the bin transfer header. Same for the details. So you can have optional fields flow from the source documents onto the bin transfer. But if they're not named the same as the source documents, then you can just have your own or different optional fields that need to be set on the bin transfer header or bin transfer detail. And then you need to set up the bins. So you can, by using this checkbox, you can select whether or not you do bin track all your IC locations. So in my particular case, I am bin tracking locations 1 through to 4, but I'm not bin tracking my transfer location. So if I was to select my transit goods in transit location, you can see this record has not yet been created. So I don't want to create that. So you can choose which IC locations that you bin track. But just going back to location 1, you can see you can have as many bins as you want. These can be imported. And per bin, we don't have a mask for your bins, but you'd normally have some sort of numbering sequence which indicates positionally where these bins are in your location. So in my case, I've got an area A, aisle O1 rack. The height and the depth in that aisle are these 6 digits that I have here. So per bin, you can mark it active or inactive. So if you do have stock in a bin and somehow it all becomes damaged, maybe rain or something, you could make the whole bin inactive and then it would no longer be available for picking or put away into that bin. You can make a bin a temporary bin. For example, you might have a container that arrives and is in the parking lot and you pick from that particular container. So it could be marked as a temporary bin, yes. And then there's a periodic processing which allows you to make inactive all temporary bins that are empty. So you can just leave it there, and once the picking, once you've emptied that out, then you could automatically make it inactive. Per bin, you can allow all items in the bin, as I am here, and if you do that, you don't have to come and fill in all the item codes. They will just appear here as and when you book them into that particular bin. But if you do want to have restocking levels per bin, then you would say per item what the restocking level is. So in this case, I currently got 365 of this item in this bin, in bin tracking. In IC, I've got a total of 682, but my restocking level is 50 and the restocking quantity is 300. So in the analytical reports, there is a report that you can run which shows you all the items where the current quantity per bin is less than the restocking level and suggests to you what the restocking quantity is. But there is no automatic bin transfer being created for you. You would then have to create a bin transfer and to move the quantity from another bin, maybe your bulk storage up the back, to this bin to take it over the restocking level. If you're using pick order or put away order as your preferred picking method, then you could fill in 1s for all the A's, for example, 2s for all the B's, 3s for all the C's, and then it would suggest you to pick from A's before B's before C's, and same for the put away. You could have a different put away order for your preferred put away items. But in my case, I'm putting away based on the last bin I was picked from, and I'm picking based on the oldest movement into the warehouse. So I don't need to do these pick orders. You can say for some bins that you only allow receiving into and not picking, and vice versa, you only allow picking and not receiving. So you could have all your receives go to the bulk storage. So you can do IC receipts only into your bin, which is a massive bin at the back called bulk. And then you would say, no, don't pick from that. And then you would have picking yes for all your A1, O2, O3s and so on. And that would mean that I can only receive into bulk, and I'd have to do a bin transfer, which is a internal bin document only. It's not associated with any IC movement because it's just a movement of quantities within your warehouse. And I would do a bin transfer from bulk to AO101, and then I would only allow picking from AO101. So I couldn't do a sales order off my receiving bin, and I could only do sales orders off my picking bins. But in my case, I'm not using that control. So that's really the setup you need to do. You create your bins, you define your rules, how to work for picks and putaways, and now you go ahead and do your ICOE and PO transactions, and bin transfers will pop up automatically. But so if you start bin tracking at the same time of starting IC, then you would just go ahead and, whichever document you do to do your take on stock, be it an IC receipt or a Stocktake, you would then fill in the associated bins at the same time. But for in the case where you've already taken on the IC stock, so you've already been using IC for a while and now you're implementing bin tracking, You can do a number of different documents to take on the opening stock. You could do a stock take, or you can do a bin transfer document. So you could just come and create yourself a manual bin transfer, and you would go ahead and say create a new document, and the source document that you're associating it with would be none, because we're just doing a bin transfer, quantity up per bin with no associated IC quantity at all. So we would just say create this new document, and we would come in and say it's a put away of this item into location 1, into bin, for example, and put away a quantity of 20. And I could, fill in all my quantities in all my bins. So this can be imported, and this will set up the initial take on quantity. And I would just have as many rows as I need. So this would be my take on. Again, when I come to add this document, it's going to say, are you complete? We just say no, leave it in progress. If we were going to do a whole lot more, or going to import all the documents, or if this was our completed document, we'd say yes, it's complete, and we can close that one off. We have a number of inquiries that you can use to find items per bin. So previously, when I ran this, I filtered on this item, my bulbs, and where the stocking unit of measure was greater than 100. But if I just clear this filter, so here I can filter either using the options at the top, or I can filter on any of these columns in the grid. And this is suggesting to me how I apply that filter. Click Control F on any column to filter. So if I wanted to see all the bins where this item was, I could go Control F and just say where item number equals this, or I could go and manually add more things into the filter. So I can see my desk lamp is in location 1, it's in these bins, location 2, 3, and 4. And if I did want to see, where my quantity is greater than, let's say, 100, I could also apply a second filter and add where my quantity stocking unit of measure is greater than 100. So this is useful for, where you've got cartons and individual eaches. So you could filter by unit of measure and by quantity. So it's not keeping track of quantities per unit of measure, but if if you had more than 12 in the bin, you would think 12 would be your carton. We also have a number of analytical reports allowing you to print the history of bin transfers, reconciliations between source and target documents, totals of IC versus bin tracking, and empty bins, or this is the suggested bin replenishment report that I was referring to if you've set minimum quantities per item per bin. So the next process that I want to discuss is the Stocktake process. So I'm just going to use the visual process flow because it's easier to visualize what you need to do. So when you come to be doing a Stocktake, you have two ways which you can do it. So first of all, you always do your day end and post everything through and freeze your stock movement. If you're wanting to do a Stocktake based on an IC Stocktake, so this is typically when you're going to be counting the entire location, then you would generate your IC worksheet, which in turn automatically creates you a bin transfer worksheet. You import or update the bin transfer worksheet, print any reports that you want to have a look at, and then when you go and post that the worksheet from bin tracking, it will update the IC worksheet so for you, and you would print that IC you would go and print your IC worksheet reconciliation report to check that your quantities and costs are okay. And when you post the IC worksheet, that's what updates your GL. And then you can use the bin tracking totals versus IC location totals report to make sure you're all in sync. But oftentimes you don't want to count the entire IC location. Maybe you want to just count rows 1 and 2. Then in that case, you can generate an inventory worksheet from bin tracking, and you can specify from bin A010101 to bin B010101, and it would just give you a worksheet based on a certain number of bins. And then you would go ahead and import or update your bin count, post your bin reconciliation. And this time, because you don't have an IC worksheet sitting behind it, it will create an IC stock adjustment for the quantities and the costs that the default costs that come through for those particular items. And it's posting that'll update your GL. But I'm going to go ahead and do a quick stock take, if a stock take can ever be quick, on location 1. And I'm going to say count all in location 1, and I'm going to include the quantities on hand, and I'm going to use items in use only. So it just creates me the stock take for those items that it thinks it needs to do. So first IC created my worksheet, and then bin tracking created my associated bin transfer worksheet. So I'm just going to go into my worksheet for bin tracking. And down the bottom, you will notice that it's put in all the bins and what quantities that bin tracking thinks it has for all those particular items. And up the top, we've got reconciliating items. So for example, for my A11030, if I was to filter on this one, what this is saying is bin tracking thinks I've got these quantities in these bins, but IC has got 46 less than what bin tracking has. So I would need to, when I do this count, I'd need to say, well, those 46, which ones are they not in? Or perhaps IC is wrong, and I would zero out this quantity. And when I posted this, it would up IC's quantity by that 46. So when I come to posting my bin transfer, or at any time, if I'm doing my IC worksheet, if I'm doing a bin BT worksheet which resulted from IC, I can click update my IC worksheet. So that will sum per item per location and update the IC worksheet accordingly. If I was to do update bins, it would create a bin transfer for any movement of quantities between bins. And it would keep track that it's already updated these particular counts. So if I change some more counts and then run again, it will just do the newly updated items back to IC and to the bin transfer. But at some point, I would go ahead and post the reconciliation, saying yes to update IC and yes to update my bin quantities. And this would complete the process from a bin tracking point of view. And I would go and delete that worksheet if I was now finished with that particular worksheet. And I'd come into IC, print my reconciliation report and post in IC. Same process, if I was doing it from my generate bin tracking, I would enter the counts, post, but this time it would post and create an IC adjustment for any movements in IC that, quantities and or costs, and then posting that would update the GL. So I think I've been through all the processes that I wanted to go through. So I'm just going to go, before I do that, I'll just see, I've got a couple of questions. So the first question is, where do you set, the first question is, I must have missed it, where do you set a min or a max for a bin? So no, you didn't miss that. For bin tracking, there is no capacity planning. So you say an item goes into a bin, but we don't say the maximum quantity or the minimum quantity that can go into that bin. So there is no capacity planning. The second question is, Anne, can I import take-on figures? Yes, you can. So, one of the recommended routes to do your take-on figure, if IC is already in progress, you would just import a bin transfer, which is not associated with any source document. So if I just go into that process, just to remind you of that one, so I can create myself a bin transfer which is not associated with any IC document, and this is just a put away. So these are my take on figures, and I can import that from the normal the normal templates that you can use for any import into a Sage 300 transaction. But what I did forget to mention when we were talking about the Stocktake is, can you import the Stocktake figures? And yes, you can do that as well. So you can import into the inventory count. So with this is a header detail for the bins, and then if you've got serialized or lot tracking, it's another level of detail. And as you know, the standard Sage 300 imports can only insert. If you're doing header detail, they can't update. So if you check our knowledge base, there is a article on how you can use our customized import for the stock count, which will allow you to do an update. So there's a specific import program from a fixed CSV file structure, which allows you to import into the inventory count if you need to do that. There's another question, and how do you eliminate a variance between the quantity in a bin versus the quantity in IC location? So you would eliminate that variance by doing the associated transaction that you need to do. So if, for example, IC has got too much, you would do an IC adjustment and then say which bins it comes from. Or if bin tracking has got too much, then you could just do a bin transfer document not associated with any IC document and just write off that quantity. So it depends where the error is, whether you need an IC transaction to adjust IC and then the BT transaction to adjust BT, or if it's bin tracking only, you would do a document like I showed you, which has no associated IC document, and you can adjust bin quantities up or down. Another question, does bin tracking support serial numbers and lot tracking? Yes, it does. So if when we were on a bin transfer document, when you're entering the quantities, if that item is bin tracked, is serialized or lot tracking, when you're typing in any quantity, you would click on the up arrow and fill in the associated serial numbers or lot numbers, or both, if that item is both serial and lot tracked. And that's the standard IC serial and lot tracking. Another question to do with the IC quantities. C is less than the quantity in my bin. So you've done inventory counts and the quantity in the bin is correct, but the quantity in IC does not increase to match the quantity in the bin. Well, if you were doing a Stocktake process and you upped the quantities in your bins, when you click post to IC, it will increase the quantity in IC. So if you're doing that process as part of the Stocktake, then by increasing your bin quantity, it will increase the IC quantity. Another question, when you're doing a bin transfer, you need to enter two details, one for pick and one for put away. Yes, I didn't show that particular process. So if you're doing a bin transfer document, so this is a transfer from one bin to another bin, so not associated with any IC document. I just pick up my last document. So if you were doing a bin transfer, so this is a put away, so it's just going to increase that bin by 20, but I could do a pick and put away. So if I had a transaction of a pick and put away, I would say which item, but now I need to fill in the pick side. This is the two locations, so the put away side, which location is this? which bin is it, and then what quantity. And now I need to fill in the from location. So which one, and I could have reordered my columns for this, obviously. So this is coming from bin, from location 1, and it's coming from bin and same quantity. So that would be basically a bin transfer from this bin to this bin, and no effect on IC at all because it's all within location 1. A question regarding the custom forms which are included for pick slips and PO receipts. Yes, very good question. I forgot to mention that. So when you install bin tracking, we have some sample reports that you can use to suggest to you. So this one is a picking slip based on the OE order screen. So although you have not yet done the shipment, you can use, if you print your picking slip based on the OE order, you can use this customized form, which will show you based on your picking rules, which the suggested bin to pick those particular items from. Or if you print your picking slip based on an OE shipment, you can use this custom form, which shows you which bins have been allocated to that OE shipment, so that the pickers have the suggested bins on them. Or if you're printing PO receipt documents, you can use this POOY RCPO1 report, which is on the PO receipt, but it shows you the suggested bins for those putaways. So you can use those two documents. So in your normal OE print picking slip, you can choose one of those two forms, or in your print of a receipt, you can choose that form, which will include the bins on for you. Another question regarding serialized and lot tracking. So my items are serialized. So when creating the adjustment or the bin transfer, you need to request the serial exactly right. So as I showed you when I was on my bin transfer document, so this is a bin transfer or a put away. If these items were serialized or lot tracking, I would need to click on that and say which lots or which serials are in this bin transfer or in this particular put away. Another question, is there an alert system for when you get lower than your minimum quantity? And if so, where is that located? So there's not an alert system in bin tracking. There is that report I showed you, which will show you which items, so you can run that report regularly to show you which items are lower than your minimum quantity that you've set for that particular bin. But if you wanted an alert as and when it happened, you could use our product extender and have a script running on the bin transfer. If the quantity goes below your minimum quantity, then send an email or create a note or do whatever process that you want to do. So if you wanted that alert to be more automated than manually running a report, then you could do that using extender. So if that's all your questions, and look at that, I've got 1 minute to go, so perfect timing. So thanks very much for attending this session. We will be sending out the session, the link to this particular webinar when we put it up on our YouTube channel. So all of you attendees will get that link, or you can just go to our YouTube channel and look at our recorded webinars. We've got 30 or so webinars up there now. So thanks very much for attending, and we'll speak to you at the next webinar. Bye.